Yeah, hold on. I thought you did. Hold on a sec. What up, chef? Yeah, hold on. I thought you did. Hold on a second. What up, chef? Beat motherfuckers like Ike beat Tina. What's love got to do? About to get started. What up, bro? Just different, you know what I'm saying? Man, it's just tight, man. I like Lil Dicky, man. All right, y'all. Hold on, hear this part number two. So I started. Here you go.
Well, my flow is crazy. I can switch that amazing. For example, I could be like, ain't nobody fucking with Lil Dicky when he get up on this shit and spit his nigga ridiculous, ripping this shit like it's never been did, and the rhythm is never.
He's cold, man.
But ain't nobody else doing funny tight rap. What's that? Well, I can tell a story about my morning watching Boy Meets World and jerking off to the Pangalore. It's like the 14-year-old of Panga. Oh, this shit like a joke to you? I don't get it. Nah, it ain't like that. I just happen to be a nutty, abundantly funny type of individual. Like as a guy, so when I get up on the mic, I ain't finna just lie. Real recognize real, right? Yeah, I guess. So what you trying to do? 5 years from now, tell me about the dude. Well, I don't care about the money. Like it's the respect that I'm wanting. Honestly, I just want to be one of the greats. Where they gotta bring a ploy up every debate. I don't want to leave the game the same. In a nutshell, what's your legacy? Well, I want to be the dude that came in and made a stand-up rap with the random.
All right, man. That's my dude, Lil Dicky, man. He's nasty, man. His professional rapper featuring Snoop Dogg, man. It's fantastic cut. Thanks for showing up, man. I appreciate y'all popping in, man. Thanks, Bunny. Thanks, G Frazier, man. Appreciate it for real, brother. You know what I'm saying? You popping in the building, man. So check this shit out, man. I was as I listen to news, it's like that's all that's in my feed now. It's just different news stories about China, man. Now I literally get news from China, and I'm getting all kind of international coverage about China. And this new channel came up, man. It was China in Focus. And they had a story, came up, China orders 200,000 body bags from Taiwan. Panic buying erupts across China amid CCCP virus pandemic. And I said, okay, well, let me take a look at this video. And I'm like, oh, shit, man. So this is actually 3 hours ago. Yes, we are. Lions do hunt at night, don't we? We do hunt at night, man. All right, man. Let me go and put this video on real quick, man. This is actually from China in Focus. This new channel I just found, man. Shit's good, man. So hang on a second. The Alliance. 200,000 body bags. That's a lot, man. Okay. Let's roll.
In China, people are stocking up on food and other necessities. We look at what's driving people to line up at the supermarkets. As many countries question China's official numbers, China is ordering hundreds of thousands of body bags from Taiwan. In Wuhan, a family of deceased got harassed by police after creating a group chat on Chinese social media. A Hubei resident is stuck in a dire situation after coming to Wuhan. His wife told us how in just one night, things took a turn for the worse. In the US, New York sees the highest increase of virus death in a day. The virus has claimed more lives in the state than 9/11. Welcome to China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. The Chinese regime announcing 3 minutes of silence tomorrow to remember those who perished during the outbreak. But many online aren't convinced. One pointing out the regime is still hiding the true numbers and asking how it can mourn in good conscience. Another sharp netizen noticed the event's date is April 4 or 404. He says it's the same number he sees when the regime deletes web pages about the virus.
404.
China is ordering large quantities of body bags from Taiwan. That's according to a Taiwanese funeral home director. He's recently received urgent orders of 100 to 200,000 body bags. The last time he saw orders this big was after the South China Sea tsunami.
能不能够给我10万个、15万个，然后甚至那个最高还有跟我讲20万个。
This comes as more and more countries question China's numbers. Taiwanese senior media person Zhang Hongyi found out that some Taiwanese funeral operators are producing an alarming number of body bags for China. U.S. Congressman John Curtis wants to hold foreign officials accountable for concealing information on the CCP virus. The bill also allows foreign officials to be sanctioned for concealing future outbreaks. 9 other co-sponsors are named on the bill. Curtis says there is growing evidence Chinese officials accelerated the spread of the virus by failing to take early action. Sanctions include revoking visas and seizing assets. Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison is urging the WHO and the UN to act against China's wet markets, like the one where the deadly coronavirus is thought to have originated.
And the last video I did show the Chinese wet markets, right? Y'all saw that.
As they pose great risks to the health and well-being of the rest of the world.
But these markets, it's not the first time we've seen these types of viruses come out of these sorts of places. I think this is a big challenge for the world into the future. The World Health Organization and other international organizations, I think this is an area they can spend a bit of time and attention on, because we can clearly see the great risks to the health and well-being of the rest of the world.
And African swine fever has re-emerged in China, killing 206 piglets. 2 cases were found in Gansu province. A report says the cases come from other provinces, but the report didn't mention the name of the province or how the situation in the other province was. On April 1st, Sichuan recorded 1 death from the disease. This case also coming from another province, but the other province was not named. 2 cases in Sichuan province, killing 18 piglets. 1 city in Henan reported 252 piglets from another province were dead on arrival. A city in Inner Mongolia reported 92 have died from the fever. All the cases were reportedly from other provinces, but no one knows which province. There are no outbreak reports from the so-called other provinces. Reuters did a special report on how Chinese officials downplay the number of swine fever deaths. The report references China's meat industry to say the disease killed half of China's hog herd. It also compares China's swine fever cover-up with the coronavirus cover-up.
You see that?
Beijing's handling of the outbreak has troubling similarities.
440 million hog herd, by more than half. They lost 220 million hogs. Wow.
But with a much higher cost, human life. People in multiple cities in China are stocking up on food and other necessities. And though the regime is trying to stop them from panic buying, it doesn't always work.
People are panic buying. In some cities in China, they're emptying store shelves and stocking up on rice, flour, and other staples.
So many people are rushing to buy food, and they actually push the price higher. The government didn't act fast enough.
Mr. Ma is from Ezhou City in Hubei.
This is happening right now.
Where the CCP virus or coronavirus first started. We've twisted his voice to protect his identity. Similar scenes in other cities and provinces.
In our city, many people
This is
have
happening
stocked
right
up
now
on
in
food
China.
in case there's a shortage, but most aren't taking it seriously.
Mr. Xiang is from Shandong province. His voice is twisted too. Videos on social media show people buying rice, cooking oil, and other necessities in large amounts. In another video, cars line up down the road, stretching far away from the supermarket. Officials try to assure the public there's enough food in stock, but Ma said they don't trust the regime because it mismanaged the outbreak. So why
Damn,
is
man.
China at risk of a food shortage?
It's rape,
China
bro.
can't produce enough grains for itself. It has to import. In 2019, China imported over $150 billion worth
From
of
America.
agricultural products, including 89 million tons of soybean,
From
the grain
America, man.
it imports most of. But some countries are limiting their food exports now the CCP virus pandemic threatens their supplies. In late March, Vietnam stopped signing new deals for rice exports. It's the world's third largest rice exporter.
In the current situation, if food imports are shut down, I think there will be a food shortage in China for sure.
And they'll eat each other. They don't trip.
On Tuesday, the World Trade Organization, UN Food and Agricultural Organization, and World Health Organization put out a warning that if more countries start restricting export, the global market could see shortages and price spikes. And in China, while authorities say publicly there won't be any food shortages, internally they're saying something else. In a leaked document, the city of Linxia instructed local officials, in their own words, to do everything possible to secure the food supply and other necessities.
A video circulating online showing family members of the deceased in Wuhan got harassed by a police after creating a group chat on a Chinese social media app.
A family in Wuhan created a group chat on a Chinese social media app after their father died from the CCP virus. But the police came to the man's house and asked them to visit the police station so they could learn about why they created their group chat. The man who created this group said they already had a call with the police about it.
That's crazy, man.
The group chat is legal. We are unhappy with our life and we just want to help each other. There is no purpose. Really, there is no purpose behind it. People like us, like our family, are really pitiful.
He added that before his father died, they repeatedly asked the community for help to send him to the hospital.
He cannot rest in peace.
Videos like these show the government closely monitors people through apps like WeChat. In another video released in early February, a woman was admonished by police for posting information online about the CCP virus. The
Police show up at the
came to her
crib.
house and asked her to delete the post or otherwise bear the legal consequences.
Wow.
A netizen said in a tweet, when they ask for the government's help many times, the government is nowhere to be found. Now the government is appearing as police offering to help to shut the family up. Another netizen said, this looks exactly like what happened with Li Wenliang and other doctors. The regime doesn't reflect, isn't accountable. When the second wave of the virus hits, there will be more victims like Li Wenliang.
A trip seeking hope of life turned into a nightmare overnight. A Hubei resident tells us how things took a drastic
on,
turn
Troy.
after they arrived in Wuhan. NTD's Juliet Song reports.
Miss Jiang arrived in Wuhan in an ambulance on March 23rd, hoping to get surgery for her half-paralyzed husband. But she says when she stepped into the Hubei General Hospital, her heart sank.
The hospital hallways are filled with patients. The beds are really close
What's
to
up,
each
Nene?
other. We never expected things to be like this in Wuhan. We were so scared watching this. Even though we had face masks, I've seen similar things in the news, but seeing it with my own eyes really scared me.
Jiang didn't know if those were virus patients, but the next day they arrived, her husband tested
but
positive. She thinks he was
people hit
infected
them.
in the hospital. We've given her a pseudonym and distorted.
The police showed up to their house because they did a group chat on an app with family members. The police showed up and told them to delete it.
her voice to protect her safety.
In the middle of a pandemic, you wouldn't want to be in a place like a hospital unless your life was in danger.
Worst
I
place to
wouldn't risk
go.
coming here if my husband's situation hadn't deteriorated so quickly. Even the doctor told us it's risky coming to Wuhan.
Jiang said she knows another patient also tested positive on the same day. Her cousin met the patient's husband in the emergency waiting room.
That man was calling the mayor's hotline, crying. My cousin heard him cry and talked to him.
A doctor in this hospital tested positive on March 23rd. He used to work in a buffer area between the wards and hallways.
A doctor said several patients who were also in the buffer area that day were all put under quarantine. I don't know why. They refused to give more information.
Jiang's husband later took several tests. The results came back negative. Although the hospital didn't list him as a confirmed case, they also wouldn't give him surgery. They asked him to go to another hospital and into quarantine for 14 days first. Jiang said many hospitals won't take her husband.
My tears are running dry. I can't cry right now even if I want to. I cried too much. My head aches.
An MRI scan
Right on,
shows
George.
a small
Peace out,
fissure
bro.
and blood in her husband's brain tumor. Jiang said her husband is panicking.
To be honest, I never expected to be in a situation like this after staying one night in Wuhan. I never expected this to happen.
Jiang said her husband also regrets coming to Wuhan for treatment, but hospitals back home aren't good enough to perform brain surgery. As the days drag on, her husband still doesn't know if he will survive long enough to have his surgery. Li Xinan and Juliet Song, NTD News, New York.
On Friday, Wuhan authorities announced they will ramp up control of residential compounds and urge residents not to leave their homes unless necessary. That's 5 days before the expected end of the lockdown of the city. White House economic advisor Larry Kudlow dismisses concerns that the small business loan program is not functioning as hoped as the federal government strives to
So
keep business.
they don't have enough money. They actually had to print and they had to print enough money and make sure that the banks had enough money. So if everybody came in today or came in tomorrow as a cash that check, that they would be able to meet that float and not have a run on the bank. Mnuchin said that today.
Businesses afloat.
Top White House economic advisor Larry Kudlow said on Friday there will be big demand for the government's small business loan program, but that the banks were prepared. Kudlow dismissed criticism that banks are unable to properly administer the program in the time constraints given.
This past week, as the Treasury Secretary put the final touches on, he was in constant touch with the bankers. Constant touch. And don't forget, we raised the lending rate from 0.5% to 1%. So it's just hard for me to believe. I have to look into all these complaints.
Kudlow also spoke about the CCP virus pandemic and its effects on the economy.
Effects of the pandemic and the mitigation that's required to.
They're talking about putting $1 trillion into the economy. That's a lot of money.
Point, we have not seen the worst of it. I don't want to sugarcoat it. And that's why we have created the largest rescue package in history.
Over 260,000 people are confirmed to have
the
CCP virus in the
still
U.S.,
there. It's not
and
going
nearly
nowhere.
7,000 have died. Kudlow also spoke about President Trump's efforts to get the world's oil supply back on track and help Saudi Arabia and Russia reach a truce so oil prices can stabilize.
President Trump believes that they have given agreement and commitments to, ending their spat with each other and stop artificially throwing oil on a market which is already vastly oversupplied with oil because the world collapsed in demand from the pandemic.
Trump met with U.S. oil producers today and discussed a potential infrastructure deal that could help the domestic oil market.
Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin assures Americans they'll get their stimulus checks
This is what I was
within
talking
2
about.
weeks.
Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin said Thursday that the first round of stimulus checks would reach bank accounts within 2 weeks.
I am assuring the American public they need the money now.
That's for people who submitted tax returns in 2019 or 2018 and are deemed eligible. These people do not need to do anything further. The checks are for up to $1,200 per person and $2,400 per couple. Children under the age of 17 are eligible for $500 as well. But for those making over $75,000, the amount will be less, and likewise for couples who make $150,000 annually. The check amount decreases by $5 for every $100 earned over the threshold. Anyone owing child support payments will not receive any stimulus money. Mnuchin said the IRS would prefer to make direct deposits into bank accounts over sending a check through the mail, but all options are possible.
If we don't have your information, you'll have a simple web portal, you'll upload it. If we don't have that, we'll send you checks in the mail.
President Trump also announced that paycheck protection loans were launching Friday. For businesses with up to 500 employees, including owners who work solo and freelancers, loans of up to $10 million can be repaid over 2 years, starting after 6 months at an annual rate of 1%. Money
Yeah, I should
used to
apply for
pay
that today.
workers' salaries can be forgiven. President Trump said recommendations may be coming about the use of masks by the public when going out. He said it was unlikely that they would be mandatory, but that they could prove beneficial in slowing the spread of the CCP virus. He said at present, wearing a mask or not is down to personal preference.
But I will say this, they can pretty much decide for themselves right now.
Dr. Deborah Bricks, part of the White House Coronavirus Task Force, said that even if using a mask, it is still important to observe the guidelines about social distancing and regular hand washing. The president also said he tried the 15-minute virus test that was approved last Friday by the FDA out of curiosity.
I did take a test.
I
It
did
just
that
came
today,
out.
Chef.
This is
So,
from
yeah.
the White House physician. You may have it. Just came out. I just took it this morning.
The result came back negative.
And New York State sees the highest single increase in the number of virus deaths.
That's why I just-
Now
oh, you
3,000
talking about just keep a
have
household
died.
alive,
That's
man.
more than the 9/11 catastrophe. Governor Cuomo ordered hospitals to share equipment to handle the crisis.
Governor Cuomo said Friday there are nearly 15,000 people hospitalized. Close to 4,000 are ICU patients, although the number of ICU patients has gone down by almost 40 since Thursday. Some hospitals are struggling to get enough equipment, especially ventilators.
But there are hospitals in other parts of the state that have ventilators that they're not using.
Cuomo is ordering hospitals to give their unused ventilators and other equipment to hospitals treating virus patients. Masks, gowns, and other protective gear is also lacking. New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio is urging New Yorkers to use homemade face covering, posting in a tweet, "Please save medical masks for our healthcare workers and first responders who truly need them." Cuomo said he's surprised our country can't produce these materials ourselves.
You gotta be fucking
In New
kidding me,
York
man.
State, in the United States of America, we can't make these materials, and that we are all shopping China to try to get these materials.
He urged New York manufacturers to start making them.
That's a
saying the
serious-
state will
that's a
help
serious,
cover the
security
costs.
risk, man.
Along with more equipment, Cuomo hints that we need more beds to handle the pandemic. The Javits Center makeshift hospital was originally supposed to treat people without the virus, but Governor Cuomo now has the president's approval to treat virus patients there too. Melina Weiskup, NTD News, New York.
And Cuomo thanked President Trump for quickly approving the Javits Center's transition, despite the federal agencies not being eager to do it. And in the U.S., companies are shifting their business models to help with and survive the pandemic, like distilleries in New York now making hand sanitizer alongside whiskey. NTD's Miguel Moreno has more from Brooklyn.
Kings County Distillery has added an item to its list. To help people disinfect during the pandemic, they're selling hand sanitizer. And this minimum $1 bottle sure does smell like whiskey.
They start at $1, and people have donated up to $20 a bottle, just depending. So we wanted to make it accessible for people, and available at all prices, really.
Come on,
Like
man. This is
other
crazy,
businesses
man.
Across the country, Gabby said many of their workers were laid off due to the pandemic, and the owner, Colin Spolman, said about a third of their business has been outlawed. So making hand sanitizer was a way to keep the company moving, all while responding to the crisis.
Keeping the factory going
Really?
and keeping people employed, that's a piece of it. Keeping the business from going under, that's a piece of it. But I think, more than anything else, it's responding to the crisis.
They always say people
trying to
one
do
paycheck away,
something
man. 2 paychecks
positive,
away.
inspiring.
And they're flying off the shelves faster than the whiskey.
Yep. So this order in particular has 3 hand sanitizers, which is our current limit per customer per order.
Gabby said they're costly to make. However, their supportive customers usually donate far more than $1 per bottle. And
Then
amid the
charge
turmoil,
more.
Spolman said most businesses can find a way to help.
Charge more. Charge $2
There
a
are a
bottle.
number of
Then.
ways in which most businesses can be helpful if they put their mind to it. And I just think when we all look back on this moment,
So
you know,
I'm sorry. My question is, if you know that you sell them at $1 and it's not profitable, then why not sell them for $2 and actually be profitable and be able to pay people to have a job? I don't know, man. I just kind of thought about that one.
it'll be great to say we did what we could.
Several other distilleries in the U.S. are doing the same in these unprecedented times. Miguel Moreno, NTD News, New York.
And the head of U.S. Northern Command says the military is helping the country battle the CCP virus as a wartime operation. He said they are preparing for a worst-case scenario to keep military members safe.
The head of U.S. Northern Command says the military is preparing for worst-case scenarios in the battle against the CCP virus pandemic. He says some crew members have already been sent to a secure bunker, the nearby Cheyenne Mountain complex, to prevent them from falling ill.
It's 1,800 feet below the surface of granite, and it gives us great protection, not only for what it was originally designed for, but now as we find out, it actually has been very useful for us to isolate a crew there.
The general didn't say
This cat's really going
exactly
below
how many
ground,
U.S.
man.
service members stationed domestically have tested positive for COVID-19, but acknowledged the virus posed a great challenge to military operations.
It is a challenging campaign, though, because it is an invisible enemy.
U.S. Northern Command was established in 2002. It carries out missions domestically to protect America and support civil authorities. The group is providing support to areas most affected by the CCP virus outbreak where local authorities need help.
And moving on, while China's official infection numbers are often cited, the full scope of the regime's cover-up is usually left out. NTD's Miguel Moreno spoke with a media expert who said this can lead people to make light of the virus.
Data from Johns Hopkins University says the U.S. and several other countries have surpassed China's number of COVID-19 cases. And that has made
But
for
China's
dramatic
lying,
headlines,
man.
but often
China's
some much-needed
lying.
context about the regime and its underreporting is left out.
If we're just looking at official numbers coming out of countries that we don't often know if we're going to get the truth from, I think that we're really doing a disservice to people because it's important to understand the broader picture of a story.
This week, Beijing essentially admitted to hiding its number of asymptomatic cases, a number it didn't disclose before. And official Chinese documents obtained by the Epoch Times show gross underreporting of positive cases. Selapak said people need that extra depth. Otherwise, they may not take the virus as seriously as they should when it could be worse than the numbers show.
I think a lot of the reason why there's been some people who have not taken the coronavirus here in the United States as serious as it should be is because of some of the underreporting of numbers. There's this sort of assumption that it might not be that dangerous.
Selapak said the media will give people whatever official numbers it can get, but it needs to give them the full picture to actually help them understand. Miguel Moreno, NTD News, New York.
And a look around the world. Japan's prime minister criticized the WHO for not including Taiwan, even though they are a global organization. And Google has revealed location data of mobile phone users from 131 countries.
Google has revealed billions of its users' location data to see if people are obeying
Wow.
lockdown
You
rules.
see that?
It's most likely the world's largest data dump so far,
Wow.
spanning 131 countries.
Wow.
Google says it's anonymous and open for everybody to access. The data shows
And that's why when they ask you on the thing, do you want to share your data? You say no. Look at this, man. Google just dumped. Let me rewind it a little bit, man. So you can hear exactly what they said.
Japan's prime minister criticized the WHO for not including Taiwan, even though they are a global organization. And Google has revealed location data of mobile phone users from 131 countries.
Google has revealed billions of its users' location data to see if people are obeying lockdown rules. It's most likely the world's largest data dump so far, spanning 131 countries. Google says it's anonymous and open for everybody to access. The data shows Italy and Spain both saw visits to retail stores and recreational areas plunge by 94%. The United Kingdom, France, and the Philippines had declines of more than 80%. The numbers aren't that high in every country, though. In South Korea, the decline was just 19%. Japanese Deputy Prime Minister criticized the WHO on Wednesday for excluding Taiwan. He said it's precisely because Taiwan was not included in the WHO that the country became the global leader in fighting the outbreak. He also talked about the WHO's strong connections to China and a petition to rename it to the Chinese Health Organization. Russia's Komi Republic reported 56 cases of the virus. 55 of those cases were related to one hospital. Russia media reported that a single surgeon could have been the source of the infection. The governor of the affected region announced his resignation. An elderly couple, one who lives in Germany and one just over the border in Denmark, are determined to keep their love alive. They're meeting every day for picnics and a chat on either side of the border. Here they're sharing biscuits and a thermos flask of hot water.
An ultra-Orthodox town in Israel is now a restricted zone. Security forces are limiting people from coming in and out of the area to protect its residents.
Israeli police put up metal barricades and roadblocks on Friday to enforce a lockdown of an ultra-Orthodox Jewish town currently suffering with a disproportionately large outbreak of the coronavirus. Emergency regulations approved by the cabinet late Thursday declared Bnei Barak near Tel Aviv a restricted zone due to its high rate of infections. The new designation gives authorities the power to tighten curbs on public movement. Police units wearing surgical masks and gloves moved swiftly early on Friday to cordon off major intersections around the town and enforce the new rules. A police spokesman said the new lockdown measures mean people are now only allowed in or out for medical reasons. Medical experts estimate as many as 38% of Bnei Barak's 200,000 residents have fallen ill. The Israeli military will begin removing 4,500 residents aged over 80 from the area to place them in isolation for their safety.
And in Germany, foodies have come up with an idea to help restaurants survive the crisis. Pay now and eat later. NTD's Germany correspondent Christian Watson has the story.
Like in the US, in Germany, restaurants, bars, and coffee shops are hit especially hard during the CCP virus crisis. Under the shutdown in Germany, they are allowed to offer only takeouts or deliveries. According to a recent survey by a trade group, the average restaurant would go bankrupt if the shutdown continues for more than 5 weeks. This new initiative wants to do something about it.
All the tours were canceled, and we were thinking, what can we do? And since we are very well connected with all the restaurants, we thought, well, we can do something for them so that they can survive.
Stormer's food tour company in Hamburg was reliant on restaurants. Now, without any business, he and the other co-founders started the nonprofit initiative Pay Now, Eat Later. It's simple. You purchase a voucher for your favorite restaurant on their website. After the crisis, you redeem it. And in the meantime, the restaurant has additional funds to pay its bills.
But you also get something worthwhile because when the crisis is gone, as a customer, you get your food for what you pay before. Of course, you also have the donation part in it because you want to make sure that your restaurant survives.
Within 2 weeks, they already raised almost $400,000. And they are expanding rapidly. Their website features over 600 restaurants in over 30 cities. Maybe they'll come to the US too. Reporting by Christian Watson, NTD News, Berlin.
And NATO members are speeding up deliveries of medical supplies to its allies. It comes after countries like Turkey and the Czech Republic began delivering supplies to Italy and Spain.
Military support brought in to help contain the pandemic in the form of speeding up medical deliveries.
Our airlift capabilities are important in helping, supporting allies.
Speaking on Thursday, NATO's chief said the alliance's top commander is assigned to coordinate the support. NATO's foreign ministers spoke about the 8 measures in a video conference call, a first for the military alliance.
the COVID-19 crisis is impacting the way we work.
NATO officials have said they're taking measures across its operations, regularly taking temperatures of its staff.
And if you would like to find out more about the Chinese regime's power struggle, we will be premiering Claws of the Red Dragon this Sunday, 9 p.m. here on this channel. The 54-minute dramatization by former White House chief strategist Steve Bannon delves into Chinese telecom giant Huawei's close ties to the Chinese regime and its goal of controlling 5G.
It's a lie. We are in an uncomfortable position because we have an extradition treaty with the Americans.
我这里有几个可以诬告他们在中国实施间谍活动的加拿大人的名单。
I think the entire U.S. government is fed up with China going afoul of international laws.
They just arbitrarily sentenced a Canadian to death. There's no telling where this retaliation will end.
You need to be straight with me, because if I'm going to survive in here, I need the truth.
It's a mess, Michael. I'm not sure.
This is a crazy accusation by countries who are jealous of our success.
Your Honor, Ms. Feng is an extremely wealthy woman. The Crown is asking that her bail be denied.
The legal system operates without interference, full stop.
Jane, these are serious people, and they know everything about you.
为什么?
Man, that movie look good, man. I'm about to watch that, man. That movie look good. I'm premiering that, man.
Here at China in Focus, we bring you first-hand information from inside China. Don't forget to subscribe for the latest updates.
That was fucking crazy. So what y'all think, man? Man, I think we in for a wild ride, man. Let me show you this. This is. I saw this other shit. And I was tripping on it, man. We in for a wild ride, man. I don't know. I don't know what to expect, man. Here you go, right here, man. This thing is just fucking insane, man. You're right. It's insane. Yeah, it's crazy, man. It's
There's no singular cure to the COVID-19 virus, and medical specialists can only treat its symptoms. While developing a vaccine is the end goal, that isn't to say recoveries haven't happened. A good measure of people have recovered with usual antibiotics and plasmid treatments. From
So they
potential
say, man.
vaccines to antibody treatments, plenty of reassuring work is underway already. Our next report tells you more. The coronavirus pandemic has sent health authorities and governments worldwide in a scramble to
Look at this, man. Could llama antibodies be the key? Come on, man.
flatten the curve.
See, Africa has 25 cases.
Extensive transmission in the community. All this while scientists and researchers can focus their attention to better understand and eventually eradicate the SARS-CoV-2, the strain of coronavirus causing COVID-19. And interestingly, it's not just pharmaceutical companies coming up with potential remedies. Big tobacco firms, too, seem to have joined the effort. The UK-headquartered British American Tobacco Group says that it could manufacture up to 3 million doses of its prototype vaccine once its US-based biotech business Kentucky Bioprocessing gets through clinical testing. British American Tobacco said that it had cloned a portion of the virus's genetic sequence and developed a potential COVID-19 antigen, a protein that induces the production of antibodies and enables the body's immune system to prevent infection. Philip Morris, on the other hand, through its partially owned Canadian unit, Medicago, expects to start human trials of a potential vaccine this summer. Philip Morris's Medicago has used a virus-like particle grown in a close relative of the tobacco plant. Plant-based vaccines mimic viruses and allow the body's immune system to recognize them and create an immune response without being able to infect or replicate. Meanwhile, US researchers at the University of Pittsburgh School of Medicine have announced a potential coronavirus vaccine. a breakthrough achievement. It doesn't require refrigeration and is more easily mass-produced than other vaccines. The patch has about 400 microneedles made of sugar and the same protein the virus uses to latch on to the ACE2 enzyme. Once applied like a Band-Aid, it simply dissolves into the skin. It's called Pitcovac and has been tested successfully so far on mice. And scientists at the Kaiser Permanente Washington Research Institute in Seattle have begun a first-stage study of a potential COVID-19 vaccine developed on March 18th. Researchers in Belgium, too, have also announced a potential breakthrough using llama antibodies by isolating 2 llama antibodies that bind the spike proteins that coronaviruses use to enter cells. One antibody neutralized the coronavirus responsible for Middle East respiratory syndrome, while the second mopped up the severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus. Fusing the SARS antibody from a llama with an antibody from a human yielded a hybrid which neutralized the virus responsible for COVID-19. A team of Chinese scientists also managed to isolate several antibodies that they say are extremely effective at blocking the ability of the new coronavirus to enter cells. Among the first 20 or so antibodies tested, 4 were able to block viral entry, and of those, 2 were exceedingly good at doing so. The team is now focused on identifying the most powerful antibodies and possibly combining them to mitigate the risk of the new coronavirus mutating. Meanwhile, in Canada, a team headed by University of British Columbia researchers say they found a drug which, in trials on cell cultures and human organ replicas grown from stem cells, was able to reduce the virus's load by a factor of 1,000 to 5,000. The drug, APNO1, essentially catches the virus and washes it away. European biotech company Apiron Biologics is about to start clinical trials on the drug on 200 infected patients in Australia, Denmark, and Germany. According to the company, APNO1 has already been shown to be safe and well tolerated in a total of 89 healthy volunteers and patients with pulmonary arterial hypertension. Developing new vaccines takes time, and they must be rigorously tested and confirmed safe via clinical trials before they can be routinely used in humans. Dr. Anthony Fauci, director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases in the US, has frequently stated that a vaccine is at least a year to 18 months away as of now. Experts agree that there's quite a few ways to go yet for a vaccine.
Could y'all wear a mask for a year, man? Could y'all wear a mask outside every day for a year? Every time you went outside, every time you went to the gas station, every time you went to the grocery store, you had to wear gloves and a mask and wipe everything down. Could you live like that? You know what I'm saying? I mean, like, really, I ask yourself that question. Could you live like that? Because that's a very real possibility. I asked myself that today when I went to the gas station. I was like, come on, man, I'm putting on gloves. I'm wiping shit down, wiping my doorknob down. You know, the lady, I feel bad. I feel bad for the lady who works at the gas station, because I'm like, she's like a sex worker, because she's got all kind of motherfuckers just coming in her face, breathing on her, man. And now they saying, you know, you get it because my motherfuckers talking to you.
The toll of this global horror only gets
I can't
harder
do it
to
no more.
capture, but here's a fact that graphically spells out the ruthless speed of this pandemic and its devastating impact. More people have died in New York in the last day than in nearly the whole of March. The state's death toll doubling since Tuesday to
How
more than
many?
3,000. And tonight, new hotspots erupting across the country with still no national strategy or unified defense plan. But here in the epicenter, the plea for help is piercing in its urgency. And with our team in place, New York is where we start tonight with Gabe Gutierrez.
This is the emergency room inside Maimonides Medical Center in Brooklyn. Doctors now call it a battle zone.
Everyone that's in here today is here due to breathing problems, almost uniformly all from COVID.
Tonight, growing anger from the nation's coronavirus epicenter.
We are afraid for our patients.
We're afraid for our families. We're afraid for our lives.
At another hospital, these nurses are calling it a daily suicide mission with a lack of PPE, personal protective equipment.
This is life or death. Every hospital in the state of New York and across the United States should have the supplies they need.
Governor Andrew Cuomo has now signed an executive order allowing the state and the National Guard to take ventilators and PPE from hospitals that have too much and redistribute them to those who need it most.
Am I willing to deploy the National Guard and inconvenience people for several hundred lives? You're damn right I am.
The mayor is urging New Yorkers to cover their faces when going outside to keep them from spreading the virus to others. Now, an urgent scramble to find more critical hospital beds. With the massive Javits Convention Center changing course and now taking COVID-19 patients, there are mounting calls for the U.S. naval ship Comfort to do the same. So far, the 1,000-bed ship has treated only about 20 patients. Still, as the battle against the virus rages, there's a
Is it 20 patients, man?
Firefighters and EMTs cheering on their fellow soldiers. The overwhelmed doctors and nurses.
Every day, man, Amazon come drop something
Police
off.
officers delivering food.
Probably the busiest I've ever had to work or ever seen the hospital.
Dr. Joshua Davis works in an ICU.
It's really hard. Being able to be physically with a patient and their family during their biggest time
What's up,
of
man?
need
How you doing?
is something that makes it easier for me and for many people to have to give bad news. And so to have to do this over the phone or over Skype and things like that, without physical proximity is really difficult.
The death toll today in the tri-state region topped 3,500. Among them, Frank Bocabella, a TSA officer at Newark, Sandra Santos Vizcaíno, a third-grade teacher in Brooklyn.
Nobody loves you like your mom, so that's going to be the biggest thing.
Shoshana Davis was just 35, passionate about travel. She's survived by her 3-year-old daughter and husband, who will never forget the last time they spoke.
She squeezed my hand almost in a pattern that felt like she was saying, "I love you" back. So I knew that she'd at least heard me, and that somewhere inside she knew that.
Governor Cuomo says that more than 20,000 out-of-state medical volunteers have signed up to help. But late today, an emergency alert rang on phones throughout New York, urgently asking for more. Lester?
All right, Gabe, thank you. And tonight, a major shift in the guidance on how to protect yourself through all this. The CDC now saying people should use cloth face coverings when going outside. It comes as the virus rapidly spreads, confirmed.
3 or 4 weeks ago, I was like, man, if I was y'all, if I had, how to sew, I'd get a sewing machine. I'd start making masks to sell masks. Great business, man. You can probably get in right now. Selling masks because people are going to be needing them. My wife was actually talking about buying a $25 mask from some dude on Blavity. I was like, shit, we could go to my mom's house, get a sewing machine, and make a motherfucking mask, man. Put a sock on your motherfucking face.
Cases in this country now surpassing 250,000 with 7,000 dead. Here's Miguel Almaguer.
Amid scenes like these across the country, tonight the Coronavirus Task Force is now asking all Americans to voluntarily wear non-medical face coverings while out in public, the bold step announced by the president a short time ago.
They can be either purchased online or simply made at home. These face coverings can be easily washed or reused. I want to emphasize that the CDC is not recommending the use of medical grade or surgical grade masks.
The new layer of protection is no substitute for social distancing, but it comes after the CDC added talking to its list of how the coronavirus spreads person to person.
Now that's funky breath.
Homes and cemeteries struggle to keep pace with the skyrocketing
You know
number.
what I'm saying? People got funky breath, boy. Brush your motherfucking teeth, man. Gargle. You know what I'm saying? You gargle it, man. That'll kill some of that shit. You know what I'm saying?
Number of fatalities. Tonight, there is growing concern over exploding hotspots. In states like Michigan, Massachusetts, Louisiana, and New Jersey, tens of thousands of new cases are flooding emergency rooms.
It's very hard because, my brother, he died alone.
In hard-hit South Florida, 34-year-old Brandon Robinson went to the hospital and never came home.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Hospital, and we found out just by calling in that,
You can't talk to somebody, man. You'll get it.
With the National Guard in states like Montana taking the temperature of arriving passengers at airports and train stations, there is a stronger push for all states to implement stay-at-home orders.
For Nebraska, this is the right plan.
But several governors, like Nebraska's, are refusing to do so. In states like Arizona and Florida, golf courses are still considered essential services, while in Texas, churches can keep their doors open. But in Dallas, the sheriff shut down the Hobby Lobby before the national chain agreed to close all stores by tonight.
It's a slap in the face to the businesses that are following this order, that a few outliers are putting the community in danger.
As Michigan gets set to fine residents $1,000 for failing to comply with social distancing orders.
This coronavirus,
this shit right, Chris, sad,
is
man.
for real.
In Detroit, bus driver Jason Hargrove warned of passengers not covering
Hey,
their
what's
mouths
happening?
when coughing. After contracting the virus, Hargrove is now among the heartbreaking list of public servants who died while likely becoming infected on the job. In Southern California today, a second procession in as many days after 2 deputies passed away after contracting the virus. The families of those taking the greatest risk for public good often paying the highest toll. But tonight, there are also stories of inspiration.
Feel good. Feel real good today.
That's a
At
hard old dude
104
right here.
years
Look at
old,
this.
Bill Lapshee survived World War II, the Spanish flu, and is now likely become the oldest American to beat the coronavirus, a symbol of hope for a country in need of just that. Tonight, the White House stressed Americans should not go out and buy medical or surgical masks that are in short supply, but should instead fashion their own face coverings from homemade items.
Hey, you know what?
Lester?
You know what, Pam? I did hear that. Oh, wow. That's crazy. You know what's crazy about that, Pam? Is it's coming right before Passover, right? What did they have to do at Passover? They had to go in the house. They had to stay in the house, man, and let the death angel come pass by. And then they could go outside. So even in the Bible, they had to stay in the house. I actually helped a few churches set up StreamYards and their YouTube channel so they can start streaming, they're going to be streaming service from the, YouTube channel and their Facebook pages. So it says in the Bible, in the Passover, man, they stayed in the crib. So keep your ass in the house, maybe for a little bit at least, Don't breathe in nobody's face, or don't nobody breathe in your face, that's intuitive, right?
Lester?
All right, Miguel.
Which is different from AIDS, because AIDS, people can breathe in your face and you won't get it, right? That's what they say. This is somebody talk to you. Wow.
Thanks very much. The Navy says at least 137 sailors aboard the aircraft carrier USS Theodore Roosevelt have tested positive amid growing criticism over the firing of the ship's captain, who pleaded for help to stop the outbreak. NBC's Courtney Cubie on the extraordinary scene as the captain left his ship.
The Navy may have fired Captain Brett Crozier, but his sailors would not let him go quietly.
They said to walk like a duck, and they quack like a duck, and they fly like a duck. Hey, man, then I pretty much say it's a duck. It looks like a plague, man.
Chanting his name, sailors swarmed to say goodbye to Crozier, who sounded the alarm about a growing coronavirus outbreak on board the USS Theodore Roosevelt. Before departing, Crozier turned to wave farewell. Earlier this week, he begged Navy leaders to help the ship's crew in a letter first reported by the San Francisco Chronicle. "We are not at war," he wrote. "Sailors do not need to die." Acting Navy Secretary Thomas Modly says Crozier sent the letter to multiple people on an unclassified server rather than going directly to his leadership.
To me, that demonstrated extremely poor judgment in the middle of a crisis. Because what it's done, it's created a firestorm.
But critics say Crozier was dismissed for speaking out and trying to protect his sailors.
The administration is not going to be able to fire their way out of this problem.
In a statement to NBC News, a group of sailors on board the aircraft carrier agreed, saying Secretary Modly has turned a military crisis operation into a political reprisal, adding that Captain Crozier has the full faith and confidence of this crew. In an interview today, Acting Secretary Modly called firing Crozier the hardest thing he's ever had to do. Lester?
All right. Courtney, thank you. There was new evidence today of the alarming toll on the American workforce as businesses cut more jobs last month than any time since the Great Recession. Here's Jolene Kent with that.
Tonight, the economic crisis is spiraling. After 10 years of consistent job growth, the U.S. lost more than 700,000 jobs in March. Jonathan Bauer and his wife Alicia lost their restaurant jobs in rural Idaho.
That's our month-to-month,
I
week-to-week,
said I wouldn't think it's a
how
lot of
we
jobs in
pay our
Idaho, no
expenses
way.
and how we live our lives.
Unemployment rising to 4.4%, the biggest month-to-month uptick since 1975.
So
But
wait a
that
minute.
doesn't capture the full
Hold
magnitude
on.
of this crisis. The survey for the March jobs report was
Now they say unemployment rate is at 4.4%. Okay, mine just check that. So 4.4%. So let's go to. Let me look something real quick. Unemployment rate. And let's say 2016. Oh, look at that, man. So in 2016, the unemployment rate was 4.7%. So they just said the unemployment rate was at 4.6%, and they're making a big deal out of it, which I understand that it is huge. It is huge. But this is what unemployment was in 2016. All right, so let's look and see what unemployment was in 2015. Now look at this. So 2015 was at 5%, 5.1, 5.4%, 5.5%, 5.7%. That was all 2015. Now, mind you, what did they just say unemployment was? They said the unemployment rate was at 4.6%. Look at this, man. The U.S. unemployment rate was at 3.5%. So right now, our economy is still much better by far than, let's say, in 2012. Let's remember the housing crisis, right? That was in 2008, wasn't it? 5.8%. Let's look at 2012. Look at that, man. 2012, unemployment was at 8.3%. That's triple than what it is now. And we got people freaking out. It's gloom and doom, right? We had the biggest bailout of all time, right? But look in 2012, that's what unemployment was, man. So I'm just saying, we have to put things in context. Yeah, we got to put stuff in context. This is being blown out of proportion. Let's look at January 2014. Look at that, 6.6%, man. Come on, man. Now tell me, man, is the media, what's the media doing, man? Thank you. Thank you. Let's look at what unemployment was, and I graduated in this unemployment rate in 1998. Boom. Come on, man. Now, I know they have a narrative that they're trying to speak, right? So when was the highest unemployment rate? So let's look for, what is unemployment rate? Okay, unemployment rate for African American males. Period. What's the black unemployment rate in 2019? 6%. So when everybody else is calling gloom and doom, that's normal for black folks. As of 2019. African American, let me see. 2019. 5.7%, followed by Hispanic workers at 4%. So white folks lose 1% in employment. 1%. Come on, man. Facts. I guess case of frightening mongering. When rate, see, race, look at this, man, 2012. This is during the height of Obama. Look at that, man. But look at this. I want you to see this. Unemployment rate for black males. Rate, black males, 2019. Let's see. I believe black males is like usually triple. Yeah. If they're wrong about the heat. If they are. You know, well, I'm thinking in 2019 is at a record low of 3.9% for Hispanics, while African Americans maintain its lowest ever. Look at this, man. 2.5%, man. At 5.5%, we still worse off. Come on, man. Yeah, so look at this. Look at where we at, man. Black folks in 2009, black folks, look at that, man. It looks like 18, 19%, man. So 2009, that's what black unemployment rate was, man. And right now, people talking about gloom and doom at 4%. Come on, man. We got to put things in context. We really got to put things in context. Yeah, man. 50-year low. So what's going to end up happening? Watch is the stock market is going to go to probably about 20. It's at 20,000 now, so it's probably going to go up to about 50,000. And the reason why I say it's going to go to about 50,000 is because they're putting another $2 trillion into the economy, and $2 trillion is going to have a it's going to have a multiplier around it, and the multiplier is going to be at least 2x. So, yeah. Let me see, black male unemployment. Ours is usually around like 19%. Okay. White, black African American. Okay, I see suggested employment rate. 61% participation. Unemployment rate is 6.7%. Men. Unemployment rate, look at 7.2. Again, man. Say, black women got better employment than black men do. I'm telling you, man. You don't think it's because of the economy of fear of getting sick and dying? I don't know, man. I just know that then why are they pumping so much money back into the economy? You think the unemployment rate is going to go to what? 5%? 6%? Let's say it goes to 10%. Let's say the unemployment rate goes to 10%. When was the last time the unemployment was at 10%? I bet if we could say, let me see, I got 98. We had a dot-com bust in 2001. So I bet unemployment rate 2001. Let's see what that was. I remember that one. Ten 10%. 10% 2009, man. That was a 10%, man. And the black folks, it was around 19%. So y'all, we're gonna be a lot better off, man. You know, don't eat Chinese food, man. All right, man. That's all I got to say. And wash your hands.